SARSOA'S Calamity, an RPT written audio short story. It was midday. Elizabeth placed the flowers around the outside of the altar for Shen's chariot to land. She saw her father walk around to inspect what needed to be done, as the SARSOA'Ns complied and assisted. Elizabeth had not seen Vali since her confrontation 2 days ago. It discouraged her, as she did not know what to say to him. Maybe it's because Clavoran traditions are different from Volskar. Though Clavora was to welcome all outsiders, it was still strange to see different cultures in the countryside. On the other hand, why wouldn't he be mad at her? Brant was the first to pass away, since she became the village herbalist 2 years ago. Elizabeth hasn't even bothered to look in her book. Was it her fault? Did she not find the right remedy? Was she even ready for that responsibility? Overthinking again, are we? Elizabeth dropped the flowers and turned to Shayla, who then patted her head to settle her down. In usual response, Elizabeth reached to pinch her cheeks. They both shared a laugh as Shayla lightened the mood. Shayla had black hair straightened in a ponytail. Her pupils were black that covered much of her eyes. Her ears were pointed, but she covered them with her hair so humans wouldn't judge her, even though no one did. Despite this sensitivity, she was a cheery and pleasing lady to be around. Her body was slender with traits of a human and an elf from Davorna. She too was a mixed race. She was a Halef. Like Elizabeth, Shayla owned a book, but never shared its contents. It was a gift from Bulgo. The two continued to laugh, as Shayla overly dramatized Bulgo's last attempt to gain more coin from the last group of travelers. As tensions relaxed in the overthinking Elizabeth, Shayla asked what happened the day Brant died. Bulgo kept her busy at the inn, so this little break was the best time to ask. Elizabeth recalled the unknown illness and what he looked like after his collapse. Shayla believed it was a form of Ranzaran poison. She was unsure though. It had been a while since her travels abroad before she settled in SARSOA a year ago. Before any more words can be shared, Bulgo approached, the barefooted howling, with the poor outer garments baggy enough to hide the expensive clothes underneath. He altered them for his size, as the last group of travelers didn't come back for them, due to a game of cards. He bowed courteously to the ladies, and requested Shayla to come back to the tavern to finish her job for the day. "You should talk to Vali," insisted Shayla as she looked over her shoulder to Elizabeth. "He has calmed down." "I would know. I talked to him recently." Shayla had that air of confidence to approach anyone due to her travels and being beautiful enough to be the barmaid of Bulgo's Inn. Elizabeth smiled and hugged her. She walked her way to the blacksmith on the east side of the village. From her peripherals, she looked to see from the village entrance a black horse pulling a cart, while a brown-hooded individual rode on top of it. A crude tabard with a chariot leaving a gate towards the continent of Calderana is set on the side. Elizabeth searched for her father to inform him who has arrived. Elizabeth escorted Harold to the cart, which parked next to the Wheat and Ale Inn. A man lifted his hood to reveal a white beard properly trimmed to the standards of a priesthood. His face showed age, wrinkled to look upon. He stood tall for an average man, as his posture defined his professional yet smug manner. Rather different than how most priests would be, humble and calm, not proud and uneasy. Harold attempted to assist him off the cart, but is waved away. He thanked Harold for his kind gesture, but insisted to do it on his own. "Esriel's holy order," said Harold. The priest was puzzled as he studied the village elder. "Shen's guiding chariot," replied the priest. His voice was old, loud in pitch, and deep in tone despite his hoarse whisper. Not to waste any more time, Harold requested the priest to follow him to the altar. Then the rear door opened of the cart. 4 hooded individuals jumped out and made a line behind the priest, each of them much younger with a pendant of a chariot around their necks, while in brown robes. "Excuse me, holy priest, I didn't expect so many from your order to conduct the ceremony," remarked Harold. "And what would an elder peasant know what is done correctly?" questioned the priest. "I know the ceremony and seen it done before, kind sir," replied Harold, rather surprised from the remark. priest raised his hand to Harold's face to prevent him from speaking anymore. My apologies, Elder. Perhaps an explanation is needed for you. You must be aware of the coming war between Drizach and Iacha, do you not? Well, to prepare, I have taken the responsibility to train these 5 acolytes. They will follow my order until they are fully promoted priests. I only ask that you are not to speak to any of them. Can you handle that request, peasant? Harold nodded but bit down the urge to confront his unprofessional demeanor as he led them to the altar. When they arrived at the stage, Harold asked them to wait a moment. The Sarsoans must be informed and the food must be out. All would have been ready had they arrived on schedule. The priest waited until everyone gathered. Volley carried Bran's body to the altar. Elizabeth aided Shayla to bring out what food they had to the stands made by the carpenters. Only a man and his wife from the carpenter house did not help. They stood at the entrance wondering why their sons have not returned with the priests. The Sarsoans gathered to view the ceremony of spiritual passing. Despite the stage being constructed for a single man in the altar, the priest ordered his acolytes to stand around Brant's limbs, 2 by his legs, 2 by his arms. They bowed their heads, clamped their hands together, and quietly prayed. The priest held a religious tome in his left hand. He spoke loudly for everyone to hear. The priest was an excellent presenter, but he didn't seem to remember the ceremony. He would read from the book as if to joggle his memory as he walked around the stage. He then moved to Brant. He urged Shen to come from his chariot to take him away. He placed his hand over Brant's forehead. With an order given, the priest bellowed out for all to hear. Release his soul from the cage of his body, mighty lord! Let his soul be free! Silence and anticipation spread among the Sarsoans. The priest gave a momentary pause. He looked to his tome and repeated the prayer.